Was good, family. Just gonna turn the recorder on and ride out with some descriptions of things that are real, exist, and if you don't see them, go look, and you will. And the reason I say it that way is because I only speak from description. I was born with a sense of feeling that I could never numb. And I thought everyone had it. But as I grew older, I realized very few people had it. They could only see and feel with their physical senses, but they didn't have that extra sense to put whatever their physical senses were showing them in the context. Whereas I always had it. What I didn't have was the language to communicate with it. I didn't know I was being oriented against myself, but I could feel that I was. If I was numb, then I would have just gone with the programming. But since I was never numb, I could see when someone is pushing me to believe rather than to see. And those are really the only two options you have: to see or to believe. Seeing is not believing, and believing is not seeing. They're actually one is true and the other one doesn't exist. So you can only see that which exists. You can't see anything that doesn't exist. And though things may vibrate higher than the physical plane, they still exist outside of the physical plane. And if you are able to raise your mental frequency to that which is outside of the physical, then you too can see it. So when I ask you, who are you? Do you really know? Or have you decided to play a role that was given to you during your schooling years? People ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? Meaning, what role that we've already defined do you want to fit yourself into for the rest of your life? That question never sat right with me. I never wanted to be anything other than self. And no one ever asked you, what problems do you want to solve? Problem solving, because you're going to face a lot of them, especially if you're black. Anywhere on this planet, you're going to face a lot of problems. And when I consider my mentality and my mind and my mental frequency years ago, and when I experience it now, it's like, wow. And I have to share with how I got here. You see, I've never, my primary source of information has always been my self-experimentation. I realized that everybody outside of myself lies to themselves and conversely to me, because the law of the universe is reflection. So you can only give to others that which you've given to yourself. So if you lie to yourself, you can only lie to others. You'll be a liar in all that you do. But if you're truthful, you can always receive truth. You can always digest truth, and you will always share truth. So liars look for those who will believe them, and those who are truthful just share what they are as they are. I didn't know I lived in a society that went against who I was genetically. And the language we are given to process ourselves in society orient us in a way that gets us to ignore the vibration coming off of us, which is our genetic expression. All things in this universe have a genetic expression, but natural cultures flow with that expression. And this particular society is all about definitions. They define that which they can never know. And when we accept those definitions, we assume that we can also never know. But when you listen to that vibration inside of yourself, there are just things you're going to start to see that destroy your ability to believe. And when your ability to believe is destroyed, very few people can really deal with that, because a lot of people don't know that they built their life around belief until they meet someone who doesn't believe anything. Well, if you don't believe anything, then you must believe in nothing. Well, I don't believe anything because I know everything. I don't know everything there is to know, but everything that I know, I know. I believe nothing. And the reason I have to share is because energy is meant to flow. I have to share as truthfully as I can, because when that energy comes back to me, it's going to come back to me true. Okay? There's just so much stuff I was told about who I was and who my people were, and a lot of things that they told us didn't make sense. And I noticed that everything they told us was meant to trigger emotions that block you from the math of what is. So I went from someone told me the honest truth of myself, and it was one that was uncomfortable. I would just start crying, and my body would just break down, my mind would just break down. Emotion, hyper emotional. But there were certain realities that I had to acknowledge. The power of acknowledgement. I was listening to this African brother named Momo, and he gave me a story he said his mother told him, never fall in love. Okay? Never fall in love. Always acknowledge, and you'll always be able to walk away whenever you have to. And that rang in me. Acknowledge. Right? So if I'm sharing, describing an experience with someone, giving an accounting, and they choose to intellectualize what I tell them as if it were theory, right? As if it were hypothetical. I'm giving you an actual description of what actually happens because that's the way I only speak. But they choose to ignore all that and just select the parts that they can understand and dismiss all the rest, ignore the rest. I have to acknowledge that that's what they're doing. Otherwise, my frustrations won't allow me to detach from the situation, and I will lose to a parasite. You see? Because truth only shares with truth, and the truthful will receive the whole truth of the truthful, but the self-deceivers, they only have a certain limit before their emotions click off, and their egos short circuit. You see? Because the way truth works is it flows on its own current, its own frequency. You either raise to its level or you stay below it. You see? And sort of like the sunlight, if I go and gaze at the sun and bang on my African djembe drum, the sun is going to continue to be the sun. But by me being able to embrace the sun as it is, it raises my frequency higher and higher and higher. And over time, eventually, I will become the sun via frequency. When I was coming up to school, they told us that our people didn't have any writing systems in the history of our people's existence. And even the age of our people is hidden from us. But the thing about genetic expression, that energy, that vibration that we all feel as who we are, they can call us whatever they want to call us. They can label us whatever they want to label us. But that frequency, that vibration, once I started to really hone in on that, all of the answers to my questions came to me. All of them. Because that frequency magnifies when you concentrate into it and live out of it, live through it. It weakens when you decide to play a role given to you by someone outside of yourself, and by people that don't vibrate with the frequency that your people do. So you have to listen to your internal vibration, and it will tell you everything. It will tell you everything, but it doesn't use words. As everybody know, I speak several languages now, right? So, and I started singing 6 years ago. For any reason, going out to karaoke, any reason. I've sang for various different reasons, but I kept singing. Entertainment. The vibration in me told me that entertainment really isn't real, but it's a way that they're able to cage the culture of my people, to neutralize the power of the science of singing. The vibration of singing tells you what it is. So when you concentrate into that vibration and you move to you harmonize everything, your own rhythm, your own tone, with the tone of the music, with the tone of everyone around you, with the tone of the room. You harmonize all of that into one thing, and you control that because you're the 0 point. When you create that harmony, everybody energetically grows. Okay? It literally becomes sunlight that feeds everybody. I'm describing something that exists. You may not see, but if you look to yourself, you may. If you don't see it, you don't see it. Acknowledge that. I acknowledge that you may not see it. That way I'm not attached to your deficiency. You see, I speak to my experience, but I don't attach to people's deficiency anymore because I've given myself the language to always acknowledge what's going on. It's very interesting because who are you? Are you what you energetically have exercised and created yourself to be? Or are you simply playing a role based on a script someone else outside of yourself gave you? Because that's what you can't serve two masters mean. If you understand the law of energy, okay, the highest vibration of something is always in its core, not its surface. So, yeah, some of you may be listening to me on the surface, but I would suggest that you listen to me in a way that I'm speaking directly to you, to your core, that I am you, okay? And I'm your core, speaking to myself. Because when I speak, I'm only speaking to myself. Everything I say applies to me if it applies to no one else. And those who it does apply to, they'll know by vibration. You see? So if you can only look outside of yourself and never in, that means you hate yourself, you're afraid of yourself. You can only fear something that you don't understand. But when you truly understand yourself, you fear nothing. Because you'll always be able to harmonize yourself to everything that involves you. Energetically. Energy never lies. As a child, I was like, man, adults lie. Other children lie. Society lies. That vibration in me, like I said, it was active since I was a baby, and I never let it be broken. You go to school, and they'll tell you to turn on a project. And you say, so I took a computer programming class, right? And they said, I want a program that performs these functions. I created the program that performed those functions. The teacher said, okay, excellent program, but where's the flow chart? And a flow chart is we were supposed to diagram the steps we took to create the program. The energetically, I couldn't give that up. The energy just, nah, you ain't giving that up. Nah, we ain't doing that. They asked for the program, they got the program, they test the functions, it works like they wanted it to. What's the problem? But no, they wanted my thought process. I never gave up my thought process. I always fought against it. And to this day, school teachers tend not to understand why I do so, but my energy wouldn't let me. I had to give myself the language to understand that and describe it. But basically, that's the real purpose of school, to fashion you for a role that does not suit the energy vibrating in you, your natural genetic expression, which is immutable. You see, it's actually impossible to act against your true thought. People speak against People speak against their true thought, but you can't act against it. Right. What you do is the truest thing about you. And we live in a society where we're taught to ignore what folks do and to not concern ourselves with why they did it, what they gained from doing it, and to take their word for what they say against what they did. To lie. See, they chose to lie to themselves, and we agree to allow them to lie to themselves, and we believe the lie that they told of themselves. And when we believe, we agree to lie to ourselves about that which we believe. You see, a deceiver can only deceive one who has given the deceiver permission to deceive him. You see, if you're always pushing for the truth, you're going to always arrive at it, because all things true are connected to all things true. That's why analogy works. Hypotheticals are disconnected from reality, but analogy is always connected to reality. The imagination and fantasy are not the same thing. If you are always moving in reality, it will condition your imagination for reality. If you are always putting your mind on fantasy, then your imagination will be conditioned to fantasy. So not all imaginations are the same. My imagination is one that is tethered to reality. So I can actually sit and meditate for hours over what I'm going to do and then go and execute it as I imagined it, because the space in my mind is exactly how reality functions, because I don't allow falsehood in. I've had to acknowledge, I'm black in America, and I'm a young black male in America. I've had to acknowledge truths that if I were to verbalize would make the weak emotionally short circuit and call me all kinds of names. So I don't verbalize a lot of stuff, but I've had to acknowledge them. When you acknowledge it, then the energetic weight of what it is starts to push against your own ego. And though most people don't allow their ego to face the pain of truth, I threw my ego into the fire of truth after a certain point, because I understood the limiting nature of the ego and how insidious it is, how it could creep in. You could just define away anything that makes you uncomfortable. And I chose to not do that anymore. So over the last 6 years in particular, I've become one who always experimented more. I put the books down, all of them, and I started to just move. If I thought of something, I wonder what would happen if I went and did it. I wonder what happens if I went and did it. What if I did this and I went and did it? There are things you will see that can never be written, because truth flows in real time only. The very nature of books is fragmentation. Fragmentation can never be truth. Even though it could have true words in it, those words will always be delivered in an untruthful way, because truth is only real time flowing. Truth is only real time flow. So how do you deal with real time flow? You have to experience it. You got to experience it. That's the only way. Okay. And there are things that I've seen that were never written anywhere. There are things that I create that have never been created, only because of the things I see when I actually experiment on myself. Okay. And what I find is there's this fear that'll take your life over if you don't get into the rhythm of moving in real time. And that was me about 7 years ago. I was like everybody else, because the more you read, you have to understand, when they said that our people, ancient as we were, never had writing systems. I found out via the vibration, we did have writing systems. What we didn't have was alphabet. You know, the alphabet is the lowest frequency of language and is actually very detrimental. And you learn an alphabet before you really create the language for yourself. And if you don't come out of the alphabet, your mind will only operate at a certain frequency for the rest of your life. And I'm speaking as somebody who's reconditioned his mind. You know, I see at a different frequency now than I ever have. The alphabet, sounds like alpha, beta, theta, and delta. You know, alpha, beta. So, you have alpha, the lowest frequency of the brain frequency. And then you have beta, which is the second lowest, theta, and delta, the two highest. You cannot ascend to theta and delta via the alphabet, via the alphabet. What the alphabet does is that it dams the energy of your mind and locks it down on a low frequency. And that's what we're taught here in America, right? But in African societies and Asian societies, they don't really have an alphabet. And then when they did get an alphabet later, that was given to them by the Germanics. I started to notice something. The Germanic tribes, the people that control the world right now, they created the alphabet and they imposed the alphabet on everybody that they went over to via their missionaries, right? And it wasn't until I learned Vietnamese, I taught myself Vietnamese, that I was forced to come out of the alphabet. Like, how you do that? How did you do that? I know that the Vietnamese don't have an alphabet because they just play around with the alphabet. They don't really use it in its intended way. And then I used to study German. Back in the day, I used to teach myself German, and I noticed a huge difference. What they call Ebonics, and then what the Vietnamese people do, and what the Chinese people do, and what African people do, and what the black Latinos do. There's a certain vibration that all those people have that the Germanic tribes don't have. You see, so now I can describe it. The Germanic tribes have flat vowels and hard consonants. So the vowel sounds are very straight, like things like that. And the consonants, the words end in hard consonants, and the consonants are very hard. Hart, Brent, Spiel, Liefen, Herz. Whereas in the African way, the black way, the consonants are real soft. We don't say soft, we say soft. We don't say north, we say north. We don't say north side, we say north side. We don't say going to pick up something. We say going to pick up a little something. Something. We don't say seven, we say seven. We soften the consonants, and the vowels are actually liquid. They don't flow flat. Now one of them die. We let it be what it's gonna be that bite. I was at work one time, and this lady called the office for some business, and she sounded like one of my folks vibrationally. And so I joked with her. I said, she was like, man, I can't wait till my show come on this week. I said, oh yeah, what day that be that by? She say, Wednesday. That's that vibration. See, the language allows your energy to move in a liquid way, unimpeded, right? So I just spoke in a non-alphabetic way. I said, what day that be that by? Instead of saying, what day does that show air? What day that be that by? Oh yeah, what day that be that by? And that's the way language works. When I learned Vietnamese, I try to use the hard consonant, xin chào, mình tu học tiếng Việt. But they don't talk like that. They talk like my folks do, the black way. Xin chào, bây giờ muốn nói tiếng Việt được. Có nhiều người mà muốn nói tiếng Việt không thể, tại vì người ấy đang ghi nhớ từ ngữ và ngữ pháp. Từ ngữ và ngữ pháp không quan trọng. Same thing with the Spanish folks. The Germanic Spanish folks speak in a way that the black Spanish folks don't. So ya prefiero hablar en la manera que permita mi ritmo, el ritmo de mi corazón, vibrar en los corazones de la gente, yeah. Because the heart is your best vortex, man. The heart is the eye of the tornado. The heart is the eye of the whirlpool. And you only grow the heart by being in true vibration. Okay? Whatever comes your way, correct it mathematically to yourself. Always be self. Don't be selfish. Be whole self. When you yourself, people find comfort in always knowing that no matter what happens, you just gonna be you. And this allows people to align their energy with you or to repel themselves from you. I don't have to choose my friends. They choose me. And the vibration of it is very high because my vibration is high. Lower vibration people can't exist around me. Because they haven't dealt with themselves yet. Okay? Basically, when someone is lying to themselves, they only tolerate a world that will lie to them. And someone like me does not tolerate being lied to. What I do is I correct the math by asking a question that pushes the speaker to be truthful. So sometimes I get into a conversation with a person who thinks that they're one way, and as the conversation goes on, they discover to themselves that they're another way, and then it inevitably comes to a point where they ask me to tone down the energy of what I say. But if I were to do so, then I would be going against myself, which I can't do. I can't allow myself to do that. So don't enter in a conversation with me and ask me to lie to myself about anything. I will push to the truth of everything, no matter how comfortable it is for me. One thing I had to learn to do was just go silent on how what someone said to me made me feel emotionally. My emotions were for me. What I did was I didn't ignore my emotions. I flowed into the stream of them to arrive at the source of them, and it was always something to deal with myself. I went and worked the experiments on myself, got the experience, cleared up that math, and that vibration became harmonic. So there's very little things people can say to insult me, because normally when people want to make your feelings hurt, they tell you something true about yourself. And you should take that as an opportunity to go explore the element of yourself, understand that element of yourself, and it will make you stronger. It will raise the vibration of your mind. But you have to eventually break the spell of the alphabet. Because now when I read, it's crazy. Like I read at a rate that boggles my mind even, with full comprehension, because mainly you're unable to absorb whole information if your mind is locked in an alphabetic form. How did I break the alphabet? I realized that the Vietnamese don't have one, and they don't speak or write with it. Okay? They play around with it, but it doesn't apply to them, because their culture is it moves at a higher vibration than the one we're used to. And the one we used to is manufactured, is artificial. It's all based on belief, which is why fear and ignorance pervades. The more you believe, the more you're rewarded, but that reward comes at a cost of you ignoring your own mental frequency and your own genetic expression, and you grow an atrophy to it. And when you atrophy, you become easier to exploit. and it dries you out over time. You don't experience joy because you're always chasing happiness, which don't exist. But once you have joy, it's always yours. It's always there. It never diminishes, and it only grows by you experiencing more and more truth, which never goes anywhere. You live in an ocean of truth. Looking for truth is like a fish looking for water while living in an ocean. You're in an ocean of truth already. What is already. All you gotta do is let it be, acknowledge it, and deal with how you feel through exploring your own feelings rather than ignoring them. Acknowledge everything. Ignore nothing. And that's really it. Acknowledge everything about everything. Ignore nothing about nothing. There's always a question, and every question has an answer. True language only describes, but explanation is someone trying to ask you to fragment what you say, and all things fragmented can and will be used against you. Truth cannot be used as a weapon against the truthful. So when you agree to explain that which someone who doesn't see the whole, is demanding you do, you're agreeing to fragment the whole for the emotional satisfaction of the deceiver, and that deceiver will use that fragment against you. You give someone who doesn't see the whole for himself a fragment, and he will use it as his weapon against you. So I'm very mindful of that. I acknowledge who can receive the full weight of what I say. I can acknowledge of those who are patient enough with themselves to digest what I say until they can come to see it. Because I notice that energy flows back to its source. It goes from its source, magnifies, and comes back to its source even stronger. So everything I say, I want it to come back to me stronger, which means I have to be precise to the truthfulness of everything I say at all times. When I'm true, even in their Bible, they say, to thyself be true. You have to be true to truth, which is already. Okay? I don't want to be believed at all. I don't want to believe anything at all, because that which is true is already true. I just want to be able to see it. And so by me increasing my energetic threshold for truth, the more of it I can receive. And the amount of energy it takes to trigger my ego is very, very high. People can't do it anymore. I've been in situations that I could have died 3-4 times now. No fear, just acknowledgement. Because once you experience it, your senses digest all of that energy, and it becomes your new minimum. But if you're out here trying to save face, you're out here experiencing embarrassment. Embarrassment is a energy that you impose on yourself because you feel that you're not playing the role, a false role, appropriately. It's fake anyway. What you being embarrassed for? If you're being truthful, there's no embarrassment in truthfulness, especially when you realize that 99% of the people you meet in your life are too scared of truth. Because that's the society we live in, where it's anti-truthful and it's anti, my people. Because my people thrive in truthfulness. And the people who rule right now, they thrive on disease. They thrive on illness. They thrive on non-truthfulness, right? And they have to make me an accomplice in my own self-destruction. And at any point, I still have the power to say, nah, I'm not gonna go along with my self-destruction anymore. I'm gonna have to let somebody else outside of me try to destroy me. But I will no longer willingly be playing self-destruction. But when you make that decision, you realize how many avenues of self-destruction you have to deconstruct off of yourself. Because no matter what you do, you're still participating in your own self-destruction. It's so sophisticated now. But that's what acknowledgement does. It allows you to see the connections to everything, and through those connections, you know what moves to make. And then when you actually exercise boldness, that becomes the new minimum for your level of strength. So when you boldly act on the thing that makes you most afraid, that experience makes you strong to that which you acted, and it will never make you afraid again, no matter how dangerous it is. You know, my people over on the continent, you know, they deal with wild animals as they are. They don't have to break the mind of the animal via domestication before dealing with them. They can actually communicate with the wild animal, the animal that's most confident in itself. They don't have to break the self-esteem of the animal in order to communicate with it, because the vibration of my people's natural way is so high that it can command all below. You know, they have a saying, as above, so below, as within, so without. But that statement is often interpreted egotistically and physically, when those are actually magnetic principles, because magnetism is the law. Magnetism is the law. Okay? So as above means the higher frequency controls all the lower frequencies. Okay? As above, then so below. So below means that the below will be a reflection of the above. The highest frequency controls all below it to its own rhythm. Okay? So as within, the core is always within, so without. So the core vibrates the hologram that is the surface low. The surface is not the control. The control is the core, well below the surface. So as within, so without. As above, so below. But these are magnetic vibratory principles. Ethereal, okay? Truth is ethereal. It vibrates higher. The way I would describe it is, imagine a cloud and imagine a block of ice. Okay? A block of ice is the same as the cloud, but at a much lower vibration. You see? If you understand what fire is actually attempting to escape the physical realm. That's why it's always pointing up. Okay, it's always escaping the physical. That's why you always see fire pointing upward, escaping to the higher vibration. Okay, so the sun vibrates the earth and everything on it, and when you're able to absorb that frequency and digest that frequency, you start to know what the sun knows. But the sun you will only be able to receive as much truth as you have a capacity for, which means you need to always be looking to eat as much truth as you can. When you eat falsehood, you diminish your capacity for truth, and the truth can't flow through you. And when it can't flow through you, the blockage causes the diseases. The blockage causes the problems. I notice now that my mind vibrates at this frequency, I don't have any blockages at all. You know, I'm more musical than ever. My tone has changed. My ability to flow has changed. My ability to read has changed. Everything I do with my mind flows as water now. And these are things that I couldn't learn in school. I learned that school was an attempt to block me from being this way, because I noticed that the natural genetic expression of my people is this, what I'm exhibiting now, but I had to go get it myself. I had to acknowledge that I live in a society that is anti-self. Are you living anti-self? You know, only you can answer that question. Now what you gonna do about it? Until next time.